The darkness of space stretched endlessly in all directions, cold and uncaring. Inside the massive colony ship Eternal Haven, 40,000 refugees huddled together in fear. The ship had stopped moving 3 hours ago when the engines exploded. Now it drifted like a dead leaf on an invisible current, going nowhere, waiting for the end. Captain Hen stood on the bridge, his 4 arms hanging limp at his sides. Through the viewing screen, he could see the wreckage of his escort ships floating in the black. 12 vessels had protected the Eternal Haven during its long journey. Now they were nothing but twisted metal and frozen bodies. The collective had destroyed them all in less than 20 minutes. They were hunters. They traveled through the outer regions of known space looking for weak prey. They took ships, stole cargo, and captured anyone still alive to sell as slaves on distant worlds. Everyone knew about them. Everyone feared them. And now they were coming for the. Hen looked at the faces of his bridge crew. They were scared. Most of them had families somewhere on the lower decks. Children, elderly parents, partners they loved. In a few hours they would board the ship. What happened after that was too terrible to think about. "Captain," said his communications officer, a young named I. Her voice shook. "Should we send another distress call?" Hen wanted to say no. They had sent 17 distress calls already. No one had answered. The Galactic Council forces were 3 weeks away, too far to help. Independent mercenaries would not fight an entire fleet for any amount of money. The math was simple and cruel. They were alone and no help was coming. But I was looking at him with hope in her large eyes. The rest of the bridge crew was watching too. They needed him to do something, even if it meant nothing. "Send it," Hen said quietly. "Send it on all frequencies. Tell them we have 40,000 civilians. Tell them we need immediate help." I nodded and turned to her console. Her fingers moved quickly across the controls. The distress signal went out into the void, traveling at the speed of light, reaching into the empty dark. Somewhere, maybe, someone would hear it, but they would hear it too late. Down in engineering, I worked frantically at a damaged control panel. She was young for an engineer, barely past her adult years, but she was brilliant. Right now, her brilliance felt useless. The main reactor was stable, but the engines were destroyed. Life support was running on backup power. In 6 hours, maybe 7, the air would start to turn bad. In 12 hours, people would start dying. "Can you get the engines working?" asked her assistant, an older engineer named N. "No," I said. She did not believe in lying about important things. "The engine core is gone. I can keep life support running for a while longer, maybe buy us another 2 hours, but after that..." She did not finish, and knew what came after that. Through the ship, people waited. Families sat together in their quarters. Parents held their children. Some people prayed to the old gods of the world they had left 3 years ago when the industrial collapse made it unlivable. They had traveled so far, survived so much. It seemed unfair that they would die here in the dark, so close to reaching a new home. In the cargo bay, a group of men and women gathered whatever weapons they could find. Metal bars, cutting tools. One old man had a projectile weapon from his grandfather's time. They knew they could not win a fight against but they would try anyway. Some things were worth dying for. On the bridge, Hen watched his sensor screen. 12 ships approached slowly. They were not in a hurry. They knew the Eternal Haven could not run. They knew no help would come. They were probably discussing how to divide the cargo and the slaves among their crews. "Captain," said his sensor operator, a man named On. "The ships are moving into boarding positions. Estimate 30 minutes until they begin cutting through our hull." 30 minutes, half an hour. Hen thought about his daughter somewhere on deck 7. She was only 10 years old. She liked to draw pictures of the ocean on their Lost, even though she had never seen it. She only knew it from stories. What would happen to her when they came through those doors? "Captain," I's voice was sharp with surprise. "I have something on the sensors, long range, something just appeared." Hen turned. "What do you mean appeared?" "I mean appeared, sir. It was not there, and now it is. It came out of subspace directly into this sector. The readings are strange. The energy signature does not match anything in our database. On was staring at his screen. Confirmed, single ship, medium size, it is moving fast, very fast. He paused. Captain, it is heading straight for us. Hen felt something in his chest, something he had not felt in hours. Hope. It was probably foolish. One ship could not fight a fleet, but it was something. Can you identify it? Hen asked. I worked her console, pulling up data. No, sir, the ship design is unknown. Wait, I am getting a response to our distress call. They are hailing us. Put it through. The communication channel opened. A voice came through the speakers, clear and calm. It spoke in Galactic Common, the language most species used for trade and diplomacy. The accent was strange, but the words were easy to understand. This is Commander Lee of the Terran Defense Navy warship Indomitable Resolve. We received your distress call. We are here to help. Terran, the word meant nothing to Hen at first. Then he remembered. Terra, Earth, humans. He had heard of them barely. A new species, young in the galaxy. They had only discovered faster-than-light travel a few decades ago. They had no empire, no territory in this region. What was a human ship doing here? This is Captain Hen of the Eternal Haven, he said. Commander, we are grateful for your response, but you should know there are 12 warships here. You cannot fight them alone. There was a pause. Then the human commander spoke again. His voice had not changed. Still calm, still steady. We did not come here to run away, Captain. We came here because you needed help. Now let us do our job. The channel went quiet. On the sensor screen, the single human ship continued its approach. It was heading directly toward the fleet. It did not slow down. It did not hesitate. Hen watched the screen and felt that foolish hope grow stronger. Commander Lee sat in his command chair and watched the tactical display. 12 red dots represented the ships. One blue dot was the colony vessel. One green dot was his own ship, the Indomitable Resolve. The numbers did not look good, but numbers never told the whole story. Lieutenant Park, give me a full tactical analysis, Lee said. Lieutenant Park worked at her station, her fingers moving quickly across the holographic controls. She was the best tactical officer Lee had ever served with. She could see patterns in battle before they happened. She was also aggressive, sometimes too aggressive, but Lee trusted her instincts. 12 warships, sir, Park said. Standard raider configuration. Heavy plasma cannons, energy shields, missile systems. They are arranged in a loose formation around the colony ship. They are not expecting trouble. They should be, Lee said quietly. On the other side of the bridge, Chief Engineer spoke through the communication system from the engine room. Commander, I have the reactor at 115%. That is above recommended levels, but it will hold for a combat situation. Thank you, Chief, Lee said, was a miracle worker. The Indomitable Resolve was an older ship, built 20 years ago when humanity was still learning how to build warships for deep space. Kept it running better than ships half its age. Lee opened a channel to the fleet. It was time to give them a chance. He did not expect them to take it, but humanity had rules about these things. You always gave the enemy a chance to surrender before you killed them. Vessels, this is Commander Lee of the Terran Defense Navy. You are targeting a civilian refugee ship. Stand down and withdraw from this area immediately. This is your only warning. The response came quickly, a harsh voice full of arrogance and anger. Human, you are far from your territory. This is not your concern. Leave now or be destroyed with the others. Lee recognized the voice from the intelligence files. A commander known for cruelty. He had destroyed dozens of ships and sold thousands of people into slavery. There were warrants for his arrest from 6 different governments. Today, those warrants would be served. I gave you a chance, Lee said. He closed the channel. Lieutenant Park, all weapons free. Execute attack pattern Delta 7. Park smiled. Delta 7 was her favorite. Yes, sir. Initiating combat burn. All hands brace for high-G maneuvers. The indomitable resolve accelerated forward. The ship's gravity compensators kicked in, but everyone still felt the pressure as the engines pushed them to maximum speed. On the ship, Captain Hen watched in shock as the human vessel charged directly into the middle of the formation. "What are they doing?" On asked. "That is suicide." But Hen was not so sure. The human ship moved differently than other vessels he had seen. It did not drift or coast. It moved like a predator, like something that hunted. They opened fire first. Plasma bolts streaked through space, bright and deadly. Energy missiles launched from tubes along the hulls. It was enough firepower to destroy 3 ships, but the human vessel did not try to dodge. Instead, it charged forward and its defensive systems came alive. Point defense cannons fired in rapid bursts. Small projectiles moving at incredible speeds intercepted the missiles and detonated them at a safe distance. The plasma bolts hit the ship's shields and scattered. The indomitable resolve pushed through the attack like it was nothing. "Charged and ready," Park reported. Targeting solutions locked on 6 vessels, firing. They were humanity's answer to energy weapons. While other species used plasma and lasers, humans still believed in kinetic force. They launched tungsten slugs at a fraction of the speed of light. When those slugs hit something, physics did the rest. The first ship took 3 slugs in its midsection. The energy shields flickered and died. The slugs punched through the armor like it was paper. The ship broke apart in a silent explosion. The second ship tried to maneuver away, but 2 more slugs caught it in the engine section. It stopped moving, dead in space. In 4 seconds, 2 ships were gone. L watched from his flagship in disbelief. The human ship was now inside his formation, moving between his vessels at impossible speeds. His ships were firing constantly, but they kept hitting each other. The human was using his own fleet against him. "All ships focus fire on the human vessel," L ordered. "Concentrate your attacks." But Park had anticipated this. "Commander, they are reorganizing. Recommend we take out their command ship now." Lee nodded. "Do it." The indomitable resolve turned hard, its maneuvering thrusters firing in complex patterns. It came around behind a destroyer and used it as a shield while closing distance on L's flagship. The destroyer realized too late what was happening. The human ship launched missiles at point-blank range. The destroyer vanished in a ball of fire. Now there was nothing between the indomitable resolve and L's ship, except empty space. "Target their weapons systems," Lee said. "I want that ship disabled, not destroyed. We will need the commander alive for trial." Park adjusted her targeting, firing. They spoke again. Precise shots took out the flagship's main weapons, then its engines. The ship was still intact, but it was helpless, dead in space. In the engine room, Chief watched his displays and made constant adjustments. The reactor was running hot, but it was stable. He redirected power from life support to weapons, then back again. He balanced shield strength with engine output. It was a complicated dance, and one mistake could destroy the ship, but had been doing this for 15 years. He did not make mistakes. On the bridge, everyone watched in stunned silence. In less than 10 minutes, the human ship had destroyed 5 vessels and disabled the flagship. The remaining 6 ships were trying to regroup, but they looked confused. They had lost their formation, lost their commander, lost their confidence. "Captain," I said softly, "what are they?" Hen did not have an answer. He had seen many battles in his life. He had seen professional military fleets fight. He had seen pirates and mercenaries, but he had never seen anything like this. The human ship fought with perfect precision and complete ruthlessness. It moved like it was alive, like it was angry. Lee opened a channel to the remaining ships. "You have seen what happens when you target civilians under our watch. You can leave now or you can join your friends. Choose quickly." There was a long pause. Then, one by one, the ships turned and ran. Their faster-than-light drives activated and they jumped away into subspace. They left their flagship behind. They left their commander behind. They ran like scared animals. Only L's disabled ship remained, floating helplessly. Lee stood up from his command chair. Lieutenant Park, maintain alert status. Chief, start repairs on any damaged systems. I will speak with the captain. He opened a channel to the Eternal Haven. Captain Hen, the immediate threat has been neutralized. We will begin boarding the flagship to take prisoners. After that, we can discuss repairs to your ship. On the bridge, Hen found his voice. Commander Lee, I do not understand. Why did you do this? We are strangers to you. Your people have no obligation to help us. Lee was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was gentle. Captain, we heard someone calling for help. That is all the reason we need. No one should die alone in the dark when someone can prevent it. Hen felt something break inside his chest. Relief, gratitude, emotions he could not name. Around him, his crew was crying. Some were laughing. They were alive. Against all odds, against all logic, they were alive. And they were alive because somewhere in the galaxy, humans heard a cry for help and decided to answer it. The battle was over, but the work was just beginning. Commander Lee sent a team of Marines to board the disabled flagship. They moved through the enemy ship quickly, securing each section. L was found on the bridge, his arms bound, his expression full of rage and disbelief. The Marines brought him back to the indomitable resolve and locked him in a secure holding cell. Lee did not care about the commander right now. He cared about the 40,000 who needed help. He opened a channel to the Eternal Haven again. Captain Hen, we are going to send repair teams to your ship. Our chief engineer will coordinate with your people to get your life support system stable. After that, we can work on your engines. Hen's voice was still shaking. Commander, we are grateful, but our engines are destroyed. The core is completely gone. It cannot be repaired. Then we will tow you, Lee said simply. We are going to get you to safety, Captain. That is a promise. 2 hours later, Chief Engineer stood in the engine room of the Eternal Haven with the engineer. Was a short, broad man with gray hair and rough hands. He looked at the destroyed engine core and shook his head. This is bad, he said in Galactic Common. His accent made the words sound harsh, but his tone was sympathetic. Your people did good work keeping life support running. Very impressive. I felt a strange pride at the compliment. Thank you, but the engines cannot be fixed. The core is too damaged. Nodded, yes, but life support can be improved. We have spare power cells on our ship. We can install them here, give you more time, more stability. Then we tow you to your destination. How far is it? 3 weeks, I said. But your ship is not large enough to tow us for 3 weeks. Smiled. It was not a happy smile, but it was confident. You have not seen what our ship can do. 3 weeks is no problem. We have towed bigger ships through worse conditions. Over the next several hours, human repair teams worked alongside engineers. They installed new power cells. They repaired damaged circuits. They reinforced weak sections of the hull. The humans worked fast and efficiently, but they also joked with each other and sang strange songs in their own language. I had never seen anything like it. Most species treated repair work as serious, quiet business. Humans treated it like a game. Why do you sing while working? I asked. Was connecting a power relay, his hands moving with practiced ease. Singing makes the work go faster, and it keeps spirits up. Old tradition from my. Sailors used to sing while working on their ships. Sailors. People who travel on water, explained. Before we had spaceships, we had ships that floated on the oceans of Earth. My ancestors were sailors. I carry on the tradition, just in space instead of water. I found this fascinating. She wanted to ask more questions, but an alarm sounded through the ship. Immediately stopped working and grabbed his communication device. What is happening? I asked. listened to the device, then looked at her. More ships, they are coming back. On the bridge of the indomitable Resolve, Lieutenant Park watched the sensor displays. 8 new contacts had appeared at the edge of the system. They were ships, larger than the first group. They were moving toward the Eternal Haven at attack speed. "Commander, we have 8 warships approaching," Park reported. "They are broadcasting a message. They say we are holding their commander prisoner. They demand his release." Lee stood at the center of the bridge, his face calm. "They want their commander back. That is not going to happen. Lieutenant, what is our combat readiness?" "Weapons at 80%, shields at full. The repairs chief did our holding. We can fight, but 8 ships is more than 12. They will have learned from the first group's mistakes." Lee nodded. "Then we need to be smarter, open a channel to the fleet." The channel opened. A new voice came through, deeper and older than L's. "Human vessel, you have committed an act of war against the collective. Release Commander L immediately and withdraw. If you comply, we will let you live." Lee's response was ice cold. "L is a war criminal. He will stand trial for his crimes. You have 60 seconds to turn around and leave. After that, I will consider you hostile combatants and respond accordingly." The voice laughed. "You are brave, human, or foolish. You defeated raiders and scavengers. We are the battle fleet. You cannot win." "We will see," Lee said. He closed the channel. "Lieutenant Park, prepare for combat. Show them what we did to their friends." Park's fingers flew across her controls. "Uploading tactical data to their communication systems now, letting them see exactly how their people died." It was a psychological tactic. Let the enemy see how easily their allies were destroyed. Let them see the precision, the speed, the ruthlessness. Maybe they would reconsider, but Lee was not optimistic. They did not become dominant raiders by being cautious. The 8 ships spread out into a wide formation. They had learned from watching the tactical data. They would not cluster together. They would attack from multiple angles at once. It was a smart strategy. But humans had been fighting wars for thousands of years. They knew every strategy. They had invented most of them. "Chief, I need everything you can give me," Lee said into his communicator. From the engine room's voice came back. "Reactor at 120%. That is dangerous, Commander. If we take damage, it could go critical." "Understood. Maintain current levels." Lee looked at his crew. Every person on the bridge knew what was about to happen. They were outnumbered and they could lose. They could die. But none of them looked scared. They looked ready. "All hands, this is the commander," Lee said over the ship-wide communication system. "We are about to engage hostile forces. They want us to abandon them. They want us to surrender a prisoner who murdered innocent people. They think we will run because the odds are against us." He paused. "They do not understand humans very well. We do not run. We do not abandon people who need our help. We fight until the job is done. So let us finish this job. Show these raiders what happens when they threaten civilians under our protection." The crew responded with a roar of approval that echoed through the ship. Even the refugees heard it and felt something stir in their hearts. Hope, courage, the knowledge that they were not alone. The ships opened fire. Plasma bolts and missiles filled the space between the fleets. The indomitable Resolve moved forward to meet them, and the real battle began. Park coordinated the defense systems with absolute precision. Point defense cannons tracked and destroyed incoming missiles. The ship's shields held against plasma fire. At the same time, they fired in controlled bursts. Each shot was calculated. Each shot hit its target. The first ship lost its forward weapons. The second ship took damage to its engines and began to drift. The third ship tried to flank the human vessel, but Park had predicted the maneuver. The indomitable Resolve spun on its axis and fired a full broadside. The ship's shields collapsed, and 3 slugs tore through its hull. In the engine room fought his own battle. The reactor was running beyond safe limits. Temperature warnings flashed on every display. He adjusted flow rates, redirected coolant, and balanced power output with the precision of a surgeon. One mistake would cause a catastrophic failure, but did not make mistakes. On the bridge, Lee watched the tactical display. They were good fighters. They were coordinating their attacks, trying to overwhelm the human defenses. But they were thinking like raiders. They were thinking about profit and loss, about acceptable casualties and strategic retreat. Humans did not think like that. Not in battle, not when protecting others. Lieutenant target their command ship, full weapons. Park locked onto the largest vessel, firing. The fired in sequence. 6 tungsten slugs crossed the distance in seconds. The command ship tried to evade, but it was too slow. 4 slugs hit. The ship's shield collapsed. The hull cracked. Atmosphere vented into space. The ship went dark. The remaining vessels hesitated. Their commander was gone. They were being destroyed by a single ship. Nothing made sense anymore. Lee's voice cut through their confusion. This is your last chance. Leave now or join your command ship. Decide. There was a long pause. Then the ships turned and ran. Their faster-than-light drives activated and they jumped away into subspace. They left their damaged ships behind. They left everything behind. The battle was over. The indomitable resolve had won. In the medical bay of the indomitable resolve, Doctor worked on her 3rd patient. The refugee had been injured during the first attack. A piece of metal lodged in his side. The wound was infected and painful. In the medical bay, they had run out of supplies to treat him properly. Now he lay on a human medical table while carefully removed the metal and cleaned the wound. This will hurt, said gently, but I can give you something for the pain. Though an elderly man named In shook his head. I have survived worse. Do what you must. Worked carefully. Her hands were steady and precise. She had been a combat surgeon before joining the crew of the indomitable resolve. She had seen terrible injuries, had worked in impossible conditions. This was easy compared to some of the things she had done. Your people are very kind, In said quietly. You did not have to help us. Glanced at him while she worked. Of course we did. You needed help. What else would we do? Most species would calculate the risk. They would decide we were not worth saving. Then most species are wrong, said simply. She finished cleaning the wound and began stitching it closed. On Earth, we have a saying, we are our brother's keeper. It means we take care of each other, even strangers, especially strangers because they need help the most. In watched her work. The human's hands were small compared to his, but they moved with such confidence. You must be peaceful if you believe such things. Laughed, but it was not a happy sound. Earth is many things, but peaceful is not one of them. We have fought terrible wars, killed millions of our own kind, nearly destroyed ourselves more than once, but we learned from our mistakes. We decided to be better. It is not easy. We fail sometimes, but we keep trying. She finished the stitches and bandaged the wound. There. You will be sore for a few days, but you will heal. Come back in a week and I will check on it. In sat up slowly. The pain was less now. He looked at with something like wonder. Thank you, doctor, for my life and for your wisdom. Throughout the ship, humans and worked together. In the engine room, spent hours with Chief, learning about human technology. She was amazed by how different it was from engineering. Humans built things to be tough and reliable, not elegant. They used redundant systems, backup plans for their backup plans. Everything was over-engineered. Why do you build things this way? I asked. It seems wasteful. Was adjusting a power coupling. Because things break, systems fail. In battle in deep space, you cannot afford a single point of failure. So we build things that can take damage and keep working. It is not elegant, but it is effective. He showed her a reactor diagram. I studied it and felt confused. This has 4 cooling systems. You only need 2. True, but if 2 fail, we still have 2 more. And if all 4 fail, we have emergency protocols that can keep the reactor stable for another hour. That hour might be the difference between life and death. I understood then. Humans expected things to go wrong. They planned for disasters. It was a way of thinking she had never encountered. Most species built for optimal conditions. Humans built for the worst possible conditions and then added extra safety measures just in case. You must be very dangerous, I said. Smiled Earth, yes, very dangerous. High gravity, violent weather, aggressive predators. Even the plants can kill you, and the diseases. He shook his head. Earth taught us to be tough or die. We learned to be tough. On the recreation deck, Marine Sergeant sat with a group of children. They were scared and traumatized from the attacks, was trying to distract them with a game. He had taken out a deck of cards and was teaching them a simple Earth game. This card is the king, said, holding up a card with a picture on it. And this one is the ace. The ace beats everything. A small girl named A looked at the cards with curiosity. Why does the ace beat the king? The king should be strongest. Grinned, good question. In some games, the king is strongest. In this game, the ace wins because it represents skill over power. It teaches us that being clever is sometimes better than being strong. The children played the game, and slowly they began to smile. Told them stories about Earth, about the oceans and mountains and forests. He told them about his own childhood, growing up in a big city with tall buildings and busy streets. The children listened with fascination. One of the boys, a child named OK, asked, "Are all humans warriors like you?" Thought about that. No. Most humans are teachers, doctors, engineers, farmers, but all humans learn to fight if necessary. We believe in being prepared. On Earth there is another saying, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. You have many sayings, I said. We do. We like to share wisdom through simple words. It helps us remember important lessons. In the captain's quarters, Commander Lee met with Captain Hen. The captain had asked for a private conversation. Now they sat together, drinking a warm beverage that Hen had brought from his ship. I need to understand, Hen said. Your people traveled far to help us. You risked your ship and crew. You asked for nothing in return. This does not make sense according to how most species behave. Lee sipped his drink. It was sweet and had a subtle flavor he could not identify. Captain, may I tell you a story about humanity? Please. 200 years ago, Earth was divided into many nations. We fought wars over resources, territory, beliefs. We came close to destroying ourselves with nuclear weapons, but we survived. We learned that cooperation was better than conflict. When we finally reached space and met other species, we decided to bring that lesson with us. We will not be the species that ignores suffering when we can prevent it. But surely you must consider cost, resources, strategic advantage. Lee nodded. Of course, we are not foolish, but we believe that helping others is never wasted effort. The galaxy is a dangerous place. If we do not help each other, who will? And besides, he smiled slightly, doing the right thing does not need justification beyond it being right. Hen was quiet for a long moment. My people will remember what you did. We will remember that when no one else came, humans answered our call. We hope you will pay it forward, Lee said. Help someone else when they need it. That is how the galaxy becomes better. Over the following days, the two crews bonded. Lieutenant Park taught navigators human tactical theory. They were amazed by how aggressive human combat doctrine was. Humans did not believe in defensive fighting. They believed in taking the initiative, in striking first and striking hard. But what if the enemy is stronger? Asked a young navigator. Park grinned. Then you hit them harder and faster until they are not stronger anymore. Humans do not believe in accepting defeat. We believe in making the enemy regret fighting us. In the cargo bay, humans and shared meals. The humans brought out food from Earth, strange dishes with unfamiliar spices. They brought food from there, sweet fruits preserved in containers. They ate together and told stories. The sang songs about their lost world, beautiful and sad. The humans sang songs about space travel, about adventure and hope. One evening, an elder named and asked Commander Lee a difficult question. They were in the observation deck, looking out at the stars. "Commander, you say your people learned to cooperate after nearly destroying yourselves, but you are still warriors. You still fight. How do you reconcile these things?" Lee looked out at the stars for a long time before answering. "We are warriors because we must be. The galaxy has predators. They are proof of that. If we were not strong, we could not protect the weak. But we choose when to fight. We fight to protect, not to conquer. We fight to defend, not to destroy. That is the difference. And if you become what you fight against, then we have failed," Lee said quietly. "That is why we have rules, laws, accountability. We watch ourselves carefully. We question our actions. We admit mistakes. It is not perfect, but it is the best we can do." And nodded slowly. "Your people are very young in the galaxy, Commander, but I think you may teach the old species important lessons." The journey continued. The indomitable resolve towed the eternal haven through space, heading toward the settlement world. It would take 3 weeks, but no one minded. The time passed quickly with new friendships forming and old fears fading. 3 weeks passed like a dream. The indomitable resolve towed the massive colony ship through space, its engines running steadily, never faltering. Chief Engineer kept everything working perfectly, though he complained constantly about the strain on the systems. That was his way. He complained but made miracles happen anyway. Lieutenant Park spent her free time teaching navigators about human tactical theory. Ah was her best student, quick and eager to learn. They became friends despite being from different worlds, different species. Park taught Ah about Earth's military history. Ah taught Park about mathematics, which understood space in ways humans had never considered. "Your people think differently than we do," Ah said one day. They were in the navigation room working on trajectory calculations. "You see space as something to conquer. We see it as something to understand." Park considered this. "Maybe we can learn from each other, your understanding with our determination. That could be powerful." Ah made a sound that was the version of laughter, or very dangerous. "Probably both," Park agreed with a smile. In the engine room, Ah worked alongside every day. She had learned more about engineering in 3 weeks than in her previous 5 years of training. Human technology was fascinating and terrifying. They pushed everything to its limits and beyond. They took risks that made her nervous, but somehow it always worked. "How do you know when to stop?" Ah asked. They were working on a power converter that had modified to run at 130% capacity. "How do you know you have not pushed too far?" Tapped the side of his head. "Experience, intuition, and good monitoring systems. You learn to feel when a machine is happy or unhappy. Sounds strange, but it is true. This converter," he patted it affectionately, "is working hard, but it is stable. I can feel it." I wanted to learn that skill. She wanted to understand machines the way did, with instinct and experience instead of just theory. Doctor continued treating patients. Many of them had injuries or illnesses that had gone untreated during their long journey, worked tirelessly, moving from patient to patient. She taught medical staff about human techniques. Some methods worked for biology, others did not. They learned together. The elderly she had treated first came back regularly. His wound had healed well, but he kept finding reasons to visit the medical bay. Finally, understood he just wanted company. "You remind me of my daughter," In said one day. "She was a healer like you, very dedicated. She died in the collapse on our." Sat with him. "I am sorry for your loss." "Thank you, but I wanted to tell you that seeing you work, seeing your kindness, it helps. It reminds me that there is still goodness in the galaxy." Marine Sergeant continued spending time with the children. He taught them more games and told them more stories. The children loved hearing about Earth, especially the parts about nature. They were amazed that humans had so many different animals and plants. The little girl who liked his stories best asked him one day, "Will you take us to Earth someday?" Smiled, "Maybe. When you are older, Earth would welcome you. We believe in sharing our world with friends." "Are we friends?" OK asked. "Yes," said without hesitation, "we are friends." The children seemed to grow taller at those words. To be called friends by the warriors who saved them meant everything. Commander Lee spent much of his time coordinating with Captain Hen. They planned the arrival at the settlement world. They discussed what would happen next. Hen wanted to establish formal relations between their peoples. Lee explained that he was just a military commander. Diplomacy was above his authority, but he would send a full report to Earth, and he was certain humanity would be interested in friendship with the. "Your people saved us," Hen said. "We owe you a debt that cannot be repaid." "You owe us nothing," Lee replied. "But if you want to honor what we did, then help others when you can. That is payment enough." On the 20th day of the journey, a message came through from the settlement world. They had heard about the rescue. The entire planet was waiting to welcome the Eternal Haven home. They wanted to honor the human ship and crew. Lee tried to decline. "We were just doing our job." But Hen insisted. "Please, Commander, let my people express their gratitude. It is important to us." Lee finally agreed. On the 21st day, they entered the star system that held the settlement world. It was a beautiful blue-green planet with 2 small moons. They had been building their new home here for 5 years. It was still rough, still developing, but it was theirs. As the ships approached the planet, dozens of small vessels came out to meet them. They formed an honor guard, escorting the Eternal Haven and the indomitable resolve toward the planet. Communications channels filled with messages of welcome and gratitude. "This is Settlement Command to the human vessel Indomitable Resolve. Welcome to our world. You are heroes here. You will always be welcome." Lieutenant Park blinked rapidly at her station. She was not crying. She just had something in her eye. Commander Lee stood straight and proud on the bridge. Chief watched from the engine room with a satisfied smile. Doctor and Sergeant stood together in the observation deck, watching the planet grow larger. The Eternal Haven entered orbit first. Its refugees began preparing to shuttle down to the surface. They would finally step on solid ground after 3 years in space. They would finally be home. The Indomitable Resolve maintained a high orbit. Lee did not want to intrude on this moment, but Hen insisted they send a delegation to the surface. Commander Lee, Lieutenant Park, Chief, Doctor, and Sergeant took a shuttle down to the planet. They landed at the main settlement, a growing city of temporary structures and permanent buildings rising side by side. Thousands had gathered to greet them. As the humans stepped off the shuttle, the crowd erupted in cheers. Voices rose in song, their traditional welcome chant. Children ran forward with flowers from their new world. Adults pressed forward just to touch the humans, to thank them personally. Captain Hen stood on a platform that had been hastily constructed for the occasion. He raised his 4 arms for silence. The crowd quieted. "My people," Hen said, his voice carrying across the square. "We were lost. We were helpless. We called for help and no one answered. No one except humanity. These 5 people represent a species that heard strangers crying in the dark and came without hesitation. They fought against impossible odds. They asked for nothing in return. They gave us our lives and our future." He turned to Commander Lee. "Commander Lee, on behalf of all, I thank you. I thank your crew. I thank your people. We will never forget what you did. We will teach our children and our children's children about the day humanity saved us." Lee stepped forward. He was uncomfortable with speeches and ceremonies, but he understood this was important. "Captain Hen, people of, we did what any decent people should do. We helped because you needed help. We fought because innocents were in danger. That is not heroism. That is just basic decency. We hope that someday you will help others as we helped you. That is how we make the galaxy better, one act of kindness at a time. The crowd cheered again. Children climbed onto shoulders. Adults shook Park's hand until she laughed, was surrounded by engineers asking 1,000 questions, was embraced by people she had treated, by people whose families she had saved. That evening there was a celebration, humans and shared food and drink. They told stories late into the night. They sang their songs of homecoming. The humans sang songs of space and stars and hope for tomorrow. I found and thanked him for teaching her. I learned more from you than from all my teachers. Smiled, you were a good student. Keep learning, keep questioning. That is how you become great. Ah gave Park a data crystal containing all her research on spatial mathematics. For your people, maybe it will help you understand space better. Park accepted it with gratitude. And I will send you human tactical manuals. Maybe they will help you defend yourselves better. In found Doctor and pressed a small object into her hand. It was a carved stone from his original, one of the few possessions he had carried across the stars. For you, so you remember an old who is grateful to be alive. His eyes filled with tears. I will treasure it always. The next morning, the crew of the Indomitable Resolve prepared to leave. They had other patrols to complete, other regions to watch. The galaxy was vast, and there were always people who needed help. Captain Hen stood with Commander Lee at the shuttle landing pad. Will we see you again? Lee nodded. The patrol routes will bring us through this sector regularly. We will visit when we can, and Earth will send diplomats soon. I think our peoples will become good friends. I hope so, Hen said. The galaxy needs more peoples like humanity, peoples who care. The galaxy has many good peoples, Lee said. They just need to remember to care for each other. You can help with that. Be an example. Show others what we showed you. They clasped hands, human and warriors and survivors friends. The crew boarded their shuttle and returned to the Indomitable Resolve. As the ship prepared to jump into subspace, Lieutenant Park looked back at the planet. Do you think they will remember us, Commander? Lee smiled. I think they will, and more importantly, I think they will remember what we taught them. That help is always possible, that no one should suffer alone, that decency matters. The ship jumped and the system disappeared behind them. But the connection remained. Friendship across species, hope for a better galaxy, and the knowledge that somewhere in the dark, humans were listening for those who needed help. Years later, when other refugees called for aid, ships would answer. They would remember what they learned. They would remember that when they were helpless, strangers came to save them. And the galaxy would slowly, painfully, beautifully become a little bit better.